Aninginawa. Excuse me. This video is on obviatives. This is the fourth person. Um, Make sure that you read the companion lesson. This is a concept that we do not have in English, so it may take a little while to fully comprehend. I like it because it brings more clarification and organization into narratives. However, becoming proficient in it can take some time, and it requires learning those paradigms. So for this, we're going to be combining VAI verbs and VTI verbs. We're not going to be using VTAs yet because we haven't gone over the basics of those, but it's in VTA paradigms that this really, really helps. And I'll talk a little bit about it, even though we haven't discussed that verb type yet. Let's see. So to understand obviative, which is called the fourth person, excuse me, or one of my teachers called him Godug, which means the other one. You can think of it like characters in a story. And so the main literary character that you are talking about, let's say you're talking about John, he takes the place of third person. He is the mean or the he or she in the story. But when another character comes in and that person is also he or she, that person can't take the wean place because all of the verbs conjugate using wean, and so they would automatically be associated with the person in the wean position, John. And so that means that the next person who comes in is like a secondary character, and they are of lesser literary importance. And so they get a marker on their name that also corresponds with their actions. So if you look at your VTI paradigms or your VAI paradigms, let me share my screen here. You will see that these have markers on the bottom of them that say obviative or godug, which is right here. And that is, it could be more than one person, plural, godug, or it could be just that fourth person. They'll all get the same marker on the end, and the amount of people is only important if you specify a number or names. But let's go up to like our positive AN ending. So if you see the wean person right here, John is the one who is cutting something, like cutting the paper. John O Gish Kijan, he is cutting it, while Eric is writing on the paper, you could say. So, or you would use Eric and you would put a suffix on Eric's name that is similar to how we put suffixes on to inanimate nouns. So you're actually giving an inanimate marker to the name, which puts them in that secondary character position. And then their corresponding verb will have a different ending that associates that action with that person. And so you always know who is doing what in the description without always having to say a name, so that way it doesn't get redundant. So if in English we can get kind of, well, in English we can get a little, what's the word? I had just blanked, but it can be a little bit just unclear, a little murky, I guess, when you are talking about more than one person doing a thing. So like if I said that John and Eric went to the store and he bought some gum and his friend bought a pop, you don't really know who bought what. Did John buy the gum? Who is the friend? And then you end up having to use more discussion to clarify who's doing what. But in Ojibwe, the main character, let's assign that to John. It would just be his name. So if we said John and Eric went to the store, Eric's name would immediately get, if they're doing different things, Eric's name would immediately get that inanimate marker on the end. So it'd be like John and Eric or it's hard to do with English names, went to the store. And then you automatically know that he is in the fourth position, Eric is. And so when you say like John, or when you say he bought gum and you say, oh, the Dawain begins, he bought gum, a Dawain is the word for he or she buys it. And then you say, and then he bought a drink, it would be like, oh, the Darwin and the or oh, the Darwin in it. That would have that additional ending on the end, and you would know, oh, that's the fourth person marker, and it corresponds to the person that has the marker on their name, so you know who did what. Now that can be a little bit confusing, so I'm going to jump into some examples to help clarify. Using VTAs where there is a transfer of action between two people, like he bought him a pop. Who bought who the pop? You would use a like wean to fourth person, wean to go Doug configuration. And so then, because there would be a previously clarified third person and fourth person in the discussion, you know who did the buying and who did the receiving just based off of how you put those endings on the verbs. I hope that wasn't too confusing. I was overwhelmed when I first started learning it. It takes a lot of practice. Sometimes I still get things a little confused. As far as I understand, as I was told in my class, was that these characters can switch places by paragraph or sentence as long as it is clarified based on what they're doing. And that's really up to the speaker. So as long as what they are doing, the verb, has the ending that corresponds to the person, then you will always know who's doing what. And it doesn't matter which one is third or which one's fourth, as long as you have the verbs with the correct endings. So let's see. I went over fourth person is of lesser literary importance. The main character has the third person mean placement. Secondary person is bumped to the fourth person, go Doug space or obviative space. Both their character name or role and what they are doing will have an inanimate marker and a marker on the verb. So I'm going to use Ojibwe names so that way this works better. So our characters are going to be, can you see up here? Makwa and Megizzi. Is it? So let's say Macoons is cleaning and Migazi is playing. We don't use Winawa, they are cleaning and playing, because they aren't both doing those same actions. One of them is playing and the other one is cleaning. And so we need to put the appropriate markers. So in this case, because it's not really clear if one of them is of more literary importance, I'm just going to assign that to them. So the first person that I talk about when in that sentence, Makuns is cleaning, or I'm sorry, Makwa is cleaning. Makwa. And the verb is being at chige. He or she is cleaning. Minowa. Minowa. We'll have Migizi. Odomino. Well, in my earlier example, I used the wrong ending. A Dawe one is what I was supposed to say. Like Dawe. Oh. So right now we have a full sentence, Makwa binichige, minawa, megati, domino. Now the problem is both of these verbs are talking about makwa because both of them are in third person form. So these are he or she is doing the thing. Now the he or she is makwa because I assigned mean to makwa, which means that automatically bumps Migazi into the fourth person. Now, our fourth person marker for a name is just like putting an inanimate plural onto a noun, and that ends with N. Sometimes I don't always put the markers on correctly, but they're understood, as being that marker, like Mikizi one is what I would put here, but sometimes it's yun, sometimes it's just an N magazine. But in this case, I'm pretty sure it's one. So Mikizi one. Now we know that this is fourth person here, Mikizi one. So now we have third person, but third person is still looking like they are. Makwa is doing both the cleaning and the playing. So we need to put something on the end of this verb that makes it agree with Mikizi. So looking at your paradigms, the VAI, because this is he or she's playing, there is no object. We add one to the end. Sometimes it will be identical to the ending on the name. Other times it won't. They'll just have, other times it won't. But in this case, when you're listening, makwa binichige, minawa, megisi one, domino one. You know, based on the ending of a domino, that it is associated with megisi doing that. So really, it's that easy. The name or the person gets this marker. Now, if we continue the sentence without the names, having already established them, let's say later he took a nap, or later he went to sleep. Banima, later. Later, the gave niba. Okay, I used the wrong. So this says later he went to sleep. Niba means he or she goes to bed. So right now, reading this whole thing, Makwa Binichige, Minawa, Mikasiwan, Odominowan, Banama, Banama, Ginaba. You can tell who went to sleep. And that's because this one right now is just the verb that's in ween form. And so we know that it was Mukwa, who is ween, that went to sleep. If I wanted it to be, but let's say if I were talking about Migizi who went to sleep, I would put one on the end. So although there's no name in the sentence, we know that this has the fourth person marker on it. So whoever was established as that fourth person is the one that is now doing this action. Makwa, who's ween, Binitshige. Minawa, Migaziwan, Adaminowan. Banima, Yi, Nibawan. Looking at this and listening to it, you can hear and see the fourth person marker and know without the name in the sentence, Banima Ginabawan, that it was Migazi who went to sleep, not Makwa. So that's how that works. Let's try another one. Sorry, I have something in my eye. Our characters are still Makwa and Migazi. And so let's say okay. Actually, I'm not gonna give it in English. Makwa. Um, oh, sorry. All right, here's our phrase. Well, it's two sentences. Makwa namadabe, migasiwan, nibawiwan, banima gi namadabiwan. So in this case, we know namadabe means he or she sits. That is the verb in its ween form, in its root form. He or she is built into it. Let's see, what else do we know? Mikasi one. This is an inanimate marker. So we know Mikasi is fourth person. Nibawi one. The word nibawe is he or she stands in ween form, but it has this additional one marker on the end, indicating that it's not ween doing it, it's fourth person doing it. So we know Mikasi is the one who's standing, Makwa is the one who's sitting. Panima gi namadabi one. Later, he sat down. Namadape, he or she is sitting, but it has one on the end. So we know Migasi is the one who is standing, but then he sat down. Another thing that can happen, let's see. So it doesn't really matter which verbs the name is next to, like in English, where you know like it based on word order, it's not the same. You gotta base it on meaning. So like let me try another one. All right, so now we have Makoan, Minoa Migisi, Gi Wisine, Megwa Gi Agindaso one. Makwa and Migisi ate, or Makwa and Migisi. He ate while he read. Like it makes more sense in Ojibwe, but it sounds funky in English. But like these guys are together, we're establishing those are the characters, and then we're saying one of them ate while the other one read. So what you have to do first is pay attention to which one has the inanimate marker. It looks like one is attached to Mukwa, so he is fourth person right now, and that means Migazi is ween, third person. Iwisine. You know that wisine means he or she is eating, so this is ween. Megwa, that means while. Agendaso one. So agendaso means he or she is reading, but it's not just he or she because we have one on the end. So take a moment. Can you figure out who is doing what? Makwa is the one who is reading. Migazi, ween, is the one who's eating. Makwa one, ki agindasa one, or who read, who ate, sorry, past tense. Migazi, ki wisine. Migazi is the one who ate. Because Migazi no longer has the marker, now Makwa has the marker, and so it goes with the marker matches person. So now we're gonna try compound sentence because it happens in B form as well. So let's see. I'll give it in English first. Makwa. Let's see that. Locked the door earlier. So Migazi so because you couldn't open it. He had to bring the key so he could go in. So, okay, that's a mouthful. That's okay. So let's translate. Makwa ki ki Liba. Minoa. To see you do. Okay, so makwagi. Hang on here. Yeah, I know that's a lot of text. I apologize. Anyway, let's break it down. This and this are the translations. Makwa gi kashkabek an ishkwandem wiba. Minawa megisiwan gi kwanewatusinine jipakakonansinig ogi pidun ababika igan jipindigenet. So that's a lot, especially if you're not used to hearing and translating as you hear. That's still something I'm working on too. So we will take a look at this. Let's figure out who's third person first. Third person is the name that does not have a fourth person marker. So Makwa is a name. There's nothing added to the end. So Makwa is third ween. That's the past tense. Gi. We have some initial consonant change that happens. So our verb is gash kabik un, which means lock it. Lock it. Okay, sorry, my bad. So we've got our third person here because it's a VTI. Ishkwandam, that's the word for door. Wiba, that means the word earlier. Minawa, migizi one. Oh, here we have a fourth person marker. This is fourth. So we know Migasi is the second person. So we know that Mukwa is the one who did the unlocking, or I mean, who did the locking. And so what is Migasi doing? Buanawatusin. Buanawatusin is the word for he or she is unable. So that's in ween form there. Wait, he or she. I think I wrote that wrong. Buanawatun, he or she was unable. But now this is the fourth person marker here. I want to check that. I'm sorry. I'm getting myself mixed up a little bit because I'm tired. And it happens to all of us, especially when I'm trying to organize my thoughts. Okay, yes. Buanawatun is an un ending. And this is when our paradigms come in handy. So I'm checking out that one. This is A form positive. Un is inini. We have gi. Buanawatun. That's what I was missing. Buanawatun. He is unable to do something. We don't want A form negative. We want A in tunini. Okay. Yeah. The unable part threw me off. I didn't need the negative Gawin form on there. I just needed the Ogi Puanewitunine. This is the fourth person marker. So Migazi one is the one who is unable to. We've got B form here. Jit. Jit is something that's like saying in order to, like in order to. So he was unable to open it. Bakakonan. And then we have Zenig. This is also a fourth person marker. So Migazi one, he was unable to open it. We already know we're talking about a door. And then we have Ogi Pidun. He brought it. Bidun means bring it. We've got the third person marker for VTI here in A form. Ogi Pidun. He brought it. Babik igan, the key. Jit bindiganit, in order for him to enter. So bindige is the word he or she enters, and we have nid on the end. And this is our B form VAI obviative, and it's on your paradigms. So Makwa, third person, is the one who did the locking of the door. Migazi is the one who could not open the door. Makwa is the one who brought the key. Migazi is the one who entered. So that's how that works. By knowing, you don't have to constantly keep saying names as long as you know you've established who that secondary character is, the fourth person versus the third person, and then you just continue to add the appropriate suffix endings for obviative or fourth person. I don't use these very often at this time. Really, only the consistent use of them will help you memorize it. However, when you are in like a immersion or semi-immersion setting and you're standing there talking to a colleague and you're trying to explain what happened between two students, John was yelling, Amy got upset and she threw the toy, and now they're both in, timeout. So in Ojibwe, you're talking about two children who are in English would both have like that third person, but in Ojibwe, one student you would have to have in third person, and the other student, while explaining this to your coworker, you would have to assign the fourth person. And then you'd just be using the verbs like throwing it, a pugadoo would have the pugadoo nene on the end if you gave Amy this marker. And the one who was yelling, bibage, would be like the ween marker for, I don't remember the name I said, for the other child, you know. So that's how you just, it's a way of organizing speech. I hope that was helpful. If you have questions, feel free to reach out or comment in the class. And, you know, this is going to become more relevant based on the kind of interactions that you're having. Some teachers, I was told, or so in my class, I was told that so many classes kind of avoid teaching about obviation is what this is called, just because it's such a foreign concept to English speakers. However, it is so prevalent in Ojibwe that it really, really limits your ability to move in the language if you don't learn about obviation. So I really recommend studying and practicing this, and doing the transparent language lessons and reading through and doing the exercises in the document, which have an answer key at the end. Anyway, thank you. Have a good rest of your study time.